to show you how to take a null object and use it as a look at point for your character's eyes. So the pupils will follow a single object around that it can focus on instead of having to control each pupil individually. The next job here is to work on the eyes. I've decided I would like to take the head controls, and instead of having it be my rotation pivot, I want to use this as my eye interest and face controls. So when I'm animating the character, I really only want to worry about a few. So just for my own sake, I'm going to change the color. I'm going to change the scale to 200, and I'm going to move it. I'm going to move it so it's an equal position, fairly centered in the composition. This makes it easier to work with the eye movement. I like to put it in the middle of his head, so that's where the eyes are centered. Alright, so the next step is I'm going to go into his face, and let's hide all this stuff. And we need to go into one of his eyes. I'm going to go into this eye, and right now, where I'm going to put the coding is on the position of his pupil. This is some code that I developed on another project, and the way this works is, I'm going to get some errors here. The way this works is I have the interest original position. Interest original position is actually this thing right here. This will be our eye interest. This will be the control that drives the eye's interest. So the original position is 1500 and 1500. So I'll go back in. 1500. 1500. The reason I'm finding the original positions and everything is I want to track how much it's moved, not where it is. Compositionally, I want to track how many pixels or how many points it's moved left or right or up or down. Okay, so I need to get the eye interest. The eye interest refers back to this null object right here. That is now my eye interest. So I need to bring this guy down here, and I'm going to just make it easy on myself, and I'm going to pick whip this eye interest with the, no, I better make sure it's open. Here we go. Okay, I want the position to make sure the position is visible, and eye interest, this is going to track the actual position of that layer. Oh, that's why that wasn't working. Columns, switches. Got to make sure the switches are enabled so that I can pick whip things. Just pull this over. Okay, so let's do this again. I'm going to grab position. There we go. The next thing is interest distance, and that's actually a slider which I've added in here already. Interest distance is essentially how close together or how far apart the pupils are, how cross-eyed or wall-eyed it will make the character, so that if there's a fly on his nose or something, he can look at it. The next variable here is pupil position. Pupil original position. This is exactly that. It's where the pupil originally was before any code was attached to it. I'm actually just going to make it 100 and 100. It's a little easier. Well, actually, I'll just make it 102. 101. There we go. Pupil original position. Okay, so now the next thing of the code is that we'll calculate pupil position. The pupil position is equal to this position of this layer minus the interest distance. So if the interest distance is reduced, the eye will move closer together or further apart. This number will change depending on the eye. So let's actually make this a plus, because one eye has to be a negative and one has to be a positive, because you want them to move in or out. So this bottom line of code here is essentially what brings it all together and makes it work. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this. I just copy this little bit of code and experiment with it to fit the compositions. If the eye interest isn't really working right, try playing with that number 30 there. Now when I drag this head around, so let's have a look. If I drag this controller around, the eye follows in a semi-realistic way. If I pull the interest slider, the eye moves left or right. But you have to be careful how far you slide it. You can't make the interest negative. Here, so I've done the code on both now, so let's have a look here. The eye is moving about. Okay, looks good. And let's try this interest. Okay, cross-eyed, wall-eyed, cross-eyed, wall-eyed. Okay, good. I have to make sure this doesn't go over 100 because it can't go past the original center point of the eye. It actually breaks the math of the code and it will throw you an error. For me, it's not really a big deal because the character doesn't have extreme facial expressions. If you want to, you can use an expression that will limit the value that the slider can get to, but it's not necessary for what I'm doing. I'm just testing the range of the eyes combined with the interest distance slider just to make sure that nothing breaks. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is I think I want to make the pupils a little smaller. Let's check this blink here. He doesn't look very surprised or anything. He's very, well, that's just terrifying looking. What I actually might do is attach some code to make his pupils smaller so that I can shrink them. So let's do this actually. Let's duplicate this. Let's call this pupil size. And then what I'll do is I'm going to go into the eyeballs here. Okay, and under scale, scale is going to equal scale. Let's quickly grab, let's make this down here. Cool. And let's go to the boy controls here. So what I want to do is, let's go size, call it pupil size equals, and let's just grab from that slider right there. Oh shoot, make sure it's spun down, twirl down. Pupil size, slider, there we go. That, transform scale plus pupil size. Here we go, easy as that. That will just allow us to manipulate the actual pupil size using the slider. That way we don't have to fight with it, or we can enjoy a little more freedom. Okay, so let's try that out. Okay, so let's have a look around. Looking around, wonderful. Pupil size. Oh, it's not, it's only doing one side of it. I actually made a really common mistake here. When I attach the slider value to the pupil scale, the scale is actually what's called a two-dimensional array. So there's two values. There's an X value and a Y value. The slider actually only has one value. So After Effects, by default, chooses to apply that value to the X axis first, and then it leaves the Y because I didn't define a value for it. So now I need to go in and specifically say to After Effects, apply the slider to both the X axis and the Y. So we're going to go scale X equals scale X, that's form, and scale Y equals, pick up that, pick up that, scale Y, okay, and then now, oh, I spelled that wrong, scale Y, and then now this thing will be just be scale X because I'm reusing my variable, scale Y. So where I'm going to change things is here. So because I want it to be equal, pupil size, and plus pupil size. Okay, and now it should scale equally. I'm just going to copy and paste that code and actually stick it on the other eye. Bad code. Good code. There. Okay, so let's try that again. There we go. That looks pretty good. So now he can be a little more wide-eyed looking without looking crazy. Alright, I think this controller is essentially finished for now. It's pretty easy to add additional features if you need to, if you want to add new sliders, or if you want to create relationships to other sliders, pretty much using all the techniques that I've gone through so far. In the next set of videos, I'm going to show you how to take this head and bring it into the third dimension using Freeform Pro. This is a powerful tool that opens up a whole new world of possibilities for character animation in After Effects. By using Freeform Pro's intuitive mesh manipulation tools, animatable displacement maps, lighting and materials, I will be able to get the look and feel I'm going for while animating exclusively in After Effects. There is now no need for me to open up a 3D application, animate the head separately, and try to composite it back in later, which ultimately means much less planning and a more intuitive approach to animation.